Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another Axel 72 video, and in today's video I'm going to be giving my prediction for the Beatriz Ferreira versus Maria Ferreyra fight. And so if you are new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so, like the video if you do indeed like the video, and let's get straight into this. So this is Beatriz Ferreira's first fight with Most Valuable Promotions, as she joins amongst many other females their now stacked roster of female fighters, in which continually keeps getting better and better. She is headlining her own card here though, unlike, of course we have this stacked event with 6 championship female fights plus more on this all women's card with Taylor vs Serrano in their trilogy. We didn't see Beatriz Ferreira feature on that card. Instead, she's featuring on her own card in America against Maria Ferreira. Maybe that is due to the fact of MVP seeing that there is a lot of potential in Beatriz Ferreira, possibly enough so for her to be able to go on to be her own Brazilian star, and perhaps that's why they're thinking that she needs to and deserves to progress with headlining her own shows. There is some real big support from Brazilian fans for multiple different fighters throughout history, and Beatriz Ferreira, with the experience she's had and the level in which she's fought at in the amateurs, it's no surprise that she is getting tipped to be one of the big names in the future for female boxing. I mean, she's already a world champion. She got that belt after 4 fights, I believe, and that's pretty crazy in itself. A lot of female fighters do get progressed quickly, but even being Olympians doesn't automatically mean you're going to get a world title shot as quickly as that. 4 fights is pretty crazy, and that was with Matchroom. That was Matchroom really pushing her, trying to make her a big star for them. But now obviously she's left to go to MVP, another name that has left Matchroom and has left Matchroom's quite now poor and minimal stable of female fighters. I mean, they have Sky Nicholson, who is, I believe, staying with them and is trying to campaign at the lower weight division, being super bantamweight, I believe. And then they've got Rhiannon Dixon, who did lose to Terry Harper and hasn't fought since. They've got, Terry Harper still, but I wouldn't surprise me if Terry Harper moves to MVP soon. I think there's been perhaps a couple of talks there, so that might happen. And other than that, they've just signed Aiton as another upcoming female fighter for Matchroom, but the stable is a lot lesser than what it once was. I mean, losing Ellie Scottney, losing Beatriz Ferreira, they're 2 big names there. They once had Chantel Cameron. Katie Taylor's going and doing her own thing, like I've touched upon in previous videos. So that Matchroom stable is looking a bit weaker in the female side at the moment, and this is a big chance for Beatriz Ferreira to really build herself a name and have all the attention upon her. I feel like she's still having difficulties getting opposition. I think a lot of the other champions don't really want to go on to fight her. I don't necessarily know if a Terry Harper or Dubois actually are looking to try and fight Beatriz Ferreira at the moment. They're too busy kind of calling out each other most of the time, so neither of them are really even looking realistically at Beatriz Ferreira. So she has her own kind of lane in which she's in at the moment, and it's no surprise she's having this difficulty finding opposition, like I say, due to this background, due to the style in which she has. I mean, she is not too long ago coming off, well, just last year, coming off a bronze at the Paris Olympics in between 2 fights that she had professionally, as well as winning a world title at the start of the year. She then went on to fight in the Paris Olympics, and then she defended her belt at the end of the year, which is, crazy to think that she was able to achieve all of that going, between amateur and professional in just 1 year. Not too many fighters realistically ever have been able to do that, and she shows how good of a talent she has been able to do that. And I mean, she had the silver before at the Tokyo Olympics. I don't know if she's going to aim to try and go back to the Olympics again in another 4 years time, well, 3 years time from now, but yeah, it's a real impressive feat in what she's been able to achieve so far in her career. For this fight, though, it's Argentina versus Brazil kind of matchup, in which is, I'm sure, going to provide a lot of entertainment. Of course, Beatriz Ferreira's style is an aggressive style in which she'll get you on the ropes. Even though she's quite a small fighter, she is able to keep you up against the ropes well, and she likes to swarm you, and she'll throw a lot of punches, and she can often, switch stance and maintain her power when she switches between stances, which was something I was impressed with her last performance. Also, in her last performance, it was such a brutal showing where she was able to throw over double of her opponent's shots and just again, just completely dominated in that fight. And to be fair, her opponent did well just to be able to survive. It was one of them fights where the opponent felt like they'd achieved something by just making it to the final bell, which is, like I say, impressive to just see that Beatriz Ferreira is able to do that at a world level. At times, she does have a lack of a jab, and she has defensive tendencies to perhaps sometimes get caught when she's switching stances. At times, stand straight in front of you, be a little bit overly aggressive when she can get caught with shots. But for the most part, like I say, her aggressive style is often far too much for her opponents, and the fact that she can also distribute her shots from head to body very nicely as well is another thing that most definitely does go in her favour. To speak about Maria Ferreyra, though, she is, obviously a bit of an unknown coming into this. She is unbeaten. She's, I believe, holding a record of 11-0-1. So she's had the one draw at a bit of a lower level. In general, she hasn't really been tested at that high of a level. But she is willing to trade. She does have solid upper body movement. Her head movement isn't awful, and her reactions aren't terrible at times. She uses a jab a bit more, and she's quite good at chopping down with her shots, which I think could definitely be important when she is having to deal with somebody like a Beatriz Ferreira. The fact that she does, throw downwards and do well with them shots going downwards. She has a good level of power herself and has been able to deliver some decent stoppages and has got a not bad resume in the way of getting stoppages, and so there is a good level of power there. I think perhaps she doesn't bring her punches back that well, so when she is throwing a jab, it definitely does leave an open gap for Ferreyra to be able to go on and punch through it. She does find her range well though, and she does throw in every exchange, which is something in which I feel like is definitely going to make this fight a true firefight, to be completely honest, which will definitely make it entertaining. But at the same time, I think she does get a bit predictable later on, where she will throw to the body and then come over with a right. But at the same time, she is kind of just doing that over and over again. One hook to the body, one kind of straight overhands mixed into a bit of a straight, just a straight right. It's, can be pretty predictable. Yes, Ferreira's movement isn't the best, but Ferreyra might be, a little bit too predictable later on to be able to, withstand Ferreira's mixed attacks going, like I say, into them later rounds. Beatriz Ferreira is who I'm going to say is going to be able to win via unanimous decision. I think it can and perhaps will play into a bit of a firefight at times. I think it will be intriguing to see how Ferreyra does on the back foot and how she is able to handle Ferreyra when she is coming forwards. But for the most part, I still think that Ferreyra is that more compact, that more attacking minded, she's got that more variety in her attacks as well, and inevitably will be able to win and showcase yet again another high level performance where she is staking a claim for herself as one of the best lightweights around at the moment, and arguably perhaps the best. I think a fight between her and a Caroline Dubois as two aggressive arguable power punchers could definitely make into a great fight, but I just don't necessarily see that they really want to take that risk unless Caroline Dubois goes on to join MVP. Same with Terry Harper, who's of course WBO champion. I think that's the only way that either of them two are going to go on to fight somebody like a Beatriz Ferreira, because otherwise I just don't think that a Matchroom or a boxer are going to be willing to sacrifice a big name and to go on to fight somebody like a Beatriz Ferreira, who is, known for being such a demolishing fighter, such a destructive fighter. So perhaps Ferreyra might have to go down other routes if MVP aren't able to prize over them names. So perhaps something like a Turhan could be a good option. She's an unbeaten fighter, just went and beat Shauna Brown in Ireland. That could be a good fight. Or Han, she's a a 10-0 contender who's American, so that could be, easily made in another American fight. Again, just getting Ferreyra's name out there. There is going to be realistically no rush with Ferreyra's career. I think, like I say, it will be very interesting getting closer to the next Olympics where she is in her professional career, and if she is wanting to go to the Olympics again or not. She will be, arguably quite one of the more older fighters most likely at the Olympics if she goes again next year, but next time. But she might want to do it again. Obviously, she performed very well this time as well, so she might want to do it again, try and get the gold in which she's not been able to get. But like I say, she kind of is able to do whatever she wants in her career now, and it's going to be intriguing to see what MVP do with her. And I think it's a very exciting time for Most Valuable Promotions. I think it's about time that the women's divisions and women's fighters, especially the talents like Beatriz Ferreira, they need to be given more notice. And I think, like I say, it's about time. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you did indeed like the video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.